Hi everyone, so we are going to talk about our next topic, which is about depression. Like I promised before, we are going to follow up this list that I've talked to you through before. And after the first topic being about the amygdala, depression is connected to the heart function. This is the reason why I interlink both of these subjects so you can understand the correlation between of them. And it's important because, like I explained regarding the process of the amygdala, which has and carries a bunch of many functions, even neurologically speaking, regarding the hormones that will be spread through the entire body, we need to understand the relationship between the lungs and the heart function, because as I tried to explain before, the relation between our mood and what we can perceive is really strongly connected to the way that Ayurveda sees these topics, because depression isn't exactly a disease. And this is the reason why I want to explain the differences in what we can perceive by the new allopathic approach, which we can see that clearly depression leads to many other diseases. Of course it does. We need to understand that it will always do that. But if we don't exactly understand where the depression comes from, why it's pressuring the brain, and this is the reason or the origin of the word itself comes from, we are not going to fully understand why it puts the body into stress and why it relates directly to other organs afterwards. So, like I said, this is a follow-up of many topics. They are always going to be connected, linked between of them, in each one of them, I'm sorry. And you will have to see through this point of view, okay? Our brain is designed to process information. If the oxygen doesn't go to the supposed places where the exchanges of these antioxidants can really rejuvenate these cells, it's the purpose of the oxygen itself, to put our body to work and to function. If that is not happening at all, it will put other functions into a block stage, perhaps, if this is the best way to explain. So I am trying to connect the Ayurvedic perspective point of view along with the homeopathic system, even though the Ayurveda is going to be the chosen one to explain the origins of the process, because the homeopathic system, and this is the extreme opposite of knowledges, works in the extreme opposite way. So we looked actually to the source of the problem, and by the delusion, the fractions of the medicine that we do, we do it in order to cure the origin, but we are going to take the actually what make the body sick. So we take a portion of that and we dilute it and we give it to the patient. In the Ayurveda, we look through the emotional point side of view first, in regards to the terminologies in Sanskrit that we can take, and we can figure out by what it was given to us to observe in the body the effects of it. So I'm going to use some terminologies regarding that, and then I can further explain in regards to the allopathic system by the words we know, how we can connect between each of these terminologies. This is the point I would like to make, and this is the reason why I'm doing these videos, for you to understand. So, like I explained, if the oxygen is not going to the brain, what it's really going to do to the body? It's going, first and foremost, to restrain the brain. It's going to restrain the brain from thinking, from processing what is really going on. And because in the topic of the amygdala, I try to explain the suppression of the emotions itself and what it does to your body, even though the amygdala is situated in the brain, it's truly and really connected to the limbic system, which is the most ancient system you can have. So you can figure out the fight and flight modes in order for you to understand what you need to do to survive, to process your emotions, and to make an action, okay? So after this being said, what I would like you to meditate about and to reflect on is to understand that really the brain is impression of all of these emotions, but it's all constricted in just one place, which is this ball that we have on the top. And most of these I call it mushroom because there is no better way to describe by conception what is really our brain. But imagine that you have a very big precise of a big book of genetic heritage system, which is all connected to so many places that you don't know yet. But this brain is in depression now, is in depression by so many thoughts that there are there completely constrained, and they need to be released. They need to go somewhere else. And the connection of the allopathic system, the clinical terminology that we can use to describe the three major neurotransmitters that we have to process the stage of sadness, which is the best way to describe how we feel when we are in a low stage of processing all of these thoughts and emotions. We have in the allopathic system these three terminologies, which would be the dopamine, the serotonin, and the norepinephrine, which will be the major, this last one, the major one I will try to explain because this is the one, the neurotransmitter, that we have directly connected to our lungs and to our heart. This is the reason why I told you before to pay attention to the previous episode. And the relation between these two, like I explained, we have in the first stages of the amygdala, we have the restriction of the throat, but we also do it when we are in a low mood, in the low stage of the sadness, of what the allopathic system calls the depression, okay? So now you understand the difference between these two terminologies. But what does exactly do this neurotransmitter? We know that once we are in a low stage of mind process, in sadness or in depression, we know that there are only like from 1 to 3 neurotransmitters, one stops working. It really does say to the brain, look, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to stay here, not going to pass any information because it's already overload of information. So this is what actually does it. The brain stops for a while because it has so many things to focus, and he really doesn't want to deal with anything because it's too much, that it starts to shut down. First in our personality, but because we need to figure out all these things in order for us to understand what is going on and what we want to do with the rest of the body. So what does it does is just that it really gives a print to the memory and into the mood. So the mood, it's literally expressed in this neurotransmitter, okay? And why is also connected to memory. It's because we don't want to add any more memory. That's the reason why. It really plays a big role in regards to the other body systems. It acts more below the neck. So after it has a very role in the mood, it acts on the rest of the body, because the rest of the body is the place that we have to actually print the actions, which will give experiences, which will give the knowledge to be printed on the memory later. Okay, this is the reason why it plays a big role, and also in the adipose tissue. So one thing that it's figured out to actually stimulate the neuroperipherin to work is to do exercise, but you actually need to choose which exercise you should do to make you happy. So along with the depression mode, or with the release of depression that you have in your brain after doing meditation, and this is the process we work with in Ayurveda. You need to be aware of this, because, for example, we have a word to describe all these kind of memory that is printed in our brain, but it comes from our mind, and it comes from the rest that we need to have. So with this being said, we know that in the allopathic system, we know that depression actually acts worse once you are exposed to the sun. This is the reason why most of people that get into depression, they like to be in the darkness. They really do like to be in the darkness, because that's the only thing that can shut the brain down and can put so you can find your own light, perhaps I can say it this way. And we know that the serotonin, which is this neurotransmitter that can bring you good things once you are not in depression, can also really worsen during depression. So it can give you a lot of fatigue in your body and also in your mood in general. So we know this for sure from the allopathic perspective point of view. And it makes sense, because we say in Ayurveda that SOMA is the nectar of the gods. It's the nectar of the eternity. And we can only produce SOMA during the night, which is connected to the melatonin, which we can produce during the night sleep. And remember, in the ancient times, none of these things were translated to the terminologies we have today. So the right thing to do is look things from the perspective point of view first. But this is only my opinion, and I'm suspected to talk about it. Again, we understand that being alone perhaps is not so bad like that, because it's the best way you actually have to heal, but you need to be some time in the darkness. And this is the reason why I try to explain that this is not going to be a romantic conversation. I'm not going to put a big smile, even though I used pink today to talk about depression. And the other days I use or black or white, but I think that colors play a big role as well in the way of the energy I transmit to talk about. And I don't want to be in depression to talk about these kind of subjects, or in sadness. But I do think that depression is a good thing. And this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic, to make awareness of what the relation we have between the lungs and the heart, and the reason why we need to know these techniques to learn how to breathe, because we actually don't, and we do not use the full oxygen capacity that we need to put our body to function and to process these thoughts. Because remember, the brain is totally is totally overwhelmed of thoughts and overwhelmed of emotions. This is the reason why it shuts down for the first place. And we are not talking about dopamine yet, but I will explain a little bit further what is the relation of dopamine in between the serotonin and the norepinephrine. But I think it's very important to demystify what actually depression is doing to you. It's making you to stop. This is the reason why, before you really get sick, somehow you already are into depression. Because you didn't have time to process all the information that it was given to you. And remember, information is memory. It's like the print and the ink to process the thoughts in your brain. So it can go to your memory later, and you can stick with that good memory or delete it, because you can also delete bad memories, and that's important to talk about that as well. So, like I tried to explain before, and melatonin is very important subject to talk about as well. And this is because as a practitioner and as many years, it will be many more years than what I have now of study, of course, but the years already done till now, I can pass from my own experience that the SOMA relation, and it again is connected to the moon perspective, which is our subconscious in the Ayurvedic perspective, plays a very big important role. And I believe it plays a very important role along the melatonin. This is very important to address, but I will try to not go into much more further details for now. But it's important to understand that this relationship about the serotonin, which is a good thing, once we pick sun, there are so many benefits that we have afterwards in our own body. And we need to correlate this information as well, that sun is not bad. What it's bad is the huge amount of experience we were exposed, and we did not have time to process it through our own emotions, because we are taught by society every single time, every single day, to suppress our emotions. So it will lead to other new diseases. It depends on the organ that it's related, but that's what we'll do. And for sure it will. It's a question of time. So we can only have access to this ink, this SOMA, through a good exposure to the sun. Otherwise, it's better to be in the darkness. And why I say darkness is because we need this time alone. We need the time to have the opportunity to reflect upon our actions. And depression, again, it's not a disease. It's just a portal on another perspective upon life that doesn't have necessarily to be my neighbor's perspective. It needs to be my own perspective. And this is what we are here to learn. We are here to put our own ink and to make our own history, not allow other people to make history. You are here to make history now for yourself and for other people around, because for sure you're not going to help the entire world, but you are going to help yourself. And this is the reason why it's important to talk about the SOMA perspective in the topic of depression and what it really is, because taking time for ourselves to reflect, to meditate upon all these different experiences we had, and we didn't have time to process that. When you are in depression, once you are alone in the darkness, in your room, in your bed, and you have that time for yourself to think, is the same thing as you getting a flu and need to go to bed. It will make you a patient. What does it mean to be a patient? Is that exactly what the word means? You need to have patience towards your own self and towards the situation that puts you in bed. so you can think about it. What really happened the previous days, the previous weeks, and the previous months or years you got before you got even sick, okay? This is the reason why it's important for us to understand all these different stages and why is the brain suppressed with all of these things that we need to figure out what they are, if they really need to be there, or if we need to delete it. If we need to delete it, that's a process the depression is forcing us to make, and we will have to figure out. It's not the end of the world, but perhaps the situations that put you over there might think that it is. If it's an extreme situation, of course, we don't know other people's lives. We only know our own experiences. But sometimes we can and we should put in other people's positions, because this is the best way for us to prevent our own depression, our own sadness about life. But for me, sadness means that you can see the other point of view. You can go to the extreme, and this is what we avoid every day. And this is the word fear. The most you fear, the most the universe, whatever, life is going to put you to test. This is the reason why you should not fear absolutely anything. But as human beings, that's the first experience we have since we are born, is fear. And this is the reason why I again say and ask for you to see the first episode about the amygdala, which is the fight and flight mode regarding to the anxiety and to the fear process, so you can understand what actually depression or sadness means. Most of the time means that you are allowing yourself to see the truth as really is. And the truth is not lightful shyness and all good and white. Many times it's looking at life as it really is. And there might be other worlds and other places and other planets that we don't know about that have perhaps a kind of a good agenda, and everybody helps each other and everybody likes each other, and we live upon flowers and everything is good. But let me tell you, it's not the world that we live in. And through the manuscripts of Ayurveda, you can really look through the reality of things, okay? Not only through Ayurveda, but through every single culture, you see bad things happening. Every single religion you see. So what is good or bad? We are figuring that out every single day, every single minute. And there is no way for us to say what is good or what is bad. And unfortunately, in spirituality, many people, when I say many people, I say really many people, like to talk with this kind voice and this spiritual side and whatever good symbols there are. I look for things with a very realistic mind, because that's how I am forced through my profession to look at things. But I also look at through each and single patient's eyes their own problems, or at least I try to. And like I said before, there is not even one disease that manifests in just one single way. There's many different ways of one disease can manifest. And there's many other ways of us getting that disease healed. So this is the beauty of life and discovering and learning, okay? And this is the reason why I also say that depression shouldn't be a bad thing. But if it's making you feel miserable, then it's obligating you to look forward into a different experience. Like I explained, neuroprofiling, it works better from the neck below. So it's obligating directly your body to do and to work on other different experiences. This is the best way. Remember, it represents memory and mood. This is the best way that you need to figure out to understand what you need to do after you got into that stage where you don't want to get up or to get out of bed. Perhaps you need to sleep, like I explained in the SOMA perspective in the regards to the Ayurveda. You achieve SOMA during sleeping or during the nighttime. But most of people that don't have their problems figured out during the day, they will have that extra time with insomnia, and they won't sleep. They are just trying to figure out what happened through the day, what happened with their partners, what happened with their work, with their kids. So there's so many different ways of us to understand what really the depression is, that I must say from the start that if I didn't had so many depressions in my life, I wouldn't be in the position where I am today, a privileged position of helping other people. So I don't see it in a bad way. Even more from the allopathic perspective of, oh, that person is crazy and she needs to take a pill. Yeah, she takes a lot of pills, but she never takes the one pill that really releases their soul, which is the truth. We don't want to face the truth. So we will hide under the covers of our beautiful sheets, in the middle of the night, in the middle of the winter, with the rain dropping outside. And for us to not wanting to go and play in the rain, to feel, to have these experiences of nature. This is the reason why I said it on my Instagram account that being alone and in nature, this is the best stages you can get for you to achieve the knowledge during the depression time, so you can release depression that you have in your brain and to start feeling a little bit of happiness. I don't even like to say the word happiness because I don't really think that exists. I believe in contentment. I do not believe in happiness. I must say this. And for many spiritual friends and colleagues that I have out there, they are really going to despise me about me saying these things, but I really do not think in happiness in this plane. I believe in contentment. I believe in appreciation. And this is the present moment, by the way. Contentment is living in the present moment, is not you thinking that once you are going to win the lottery, that you're going to be the happiest person in your life, because you're not going to. It will bring you some moments of that happiness, but it really needs to be converted in contentment. So you can understand that what you have today, you might not have the next day, because life is a cycle. And it's not a continuous stage of blissfulness, and that everything is going to happen in the same thing, because it happens with my grandmother. Everybody had money, everybody had wealth, and so I'm going to have it as well. It's genetically, I can spend all my heritage because my kids are still going to have money. No, it's not going to happen like that. And this is the reason why we need to wake up from this illusion and start living in reality, so you can plan, and you always need to plan. This is not a controlling stage that I am trying to pass on you, but it's more of a tip that because life is a cycle, and if you keep repeating the bad cycles without understanding what's happening you now, you're never going to understand what is really to live in a peace stage. And the peace stage is knowing that you did what you know the best at the time, but you know that you want to keep learning from the future ahead. So I'm not going to extend more on this conversation for now. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you like it. And please share with your friends if you think it's going to benefit them. I will be grateful for that. But again, do not think that depression is a bad topic, because it's not. Once you succeed the problem you are living, you will understand that the worst thing that can happen is that, and even that is not a bad thing at all, because every one of us is going to pass through that. So I will leave you with this beautiful, I believe in my perspective, in my reality perspective, this beautiful last sentence that I will give it to you. Not even that is a bad thing at all. It's just a stage. And for the ones that believe it, in that, it will benefit you more. The ones that do not believe it yet, don't worry, because we are born. But the second thing we know for sure in life is that we are going to live as well. If it's going to be in a peaceful way or in a harder way, well, it's up to everyone's story. We don't know. The experiences we have to learn from by living this life. But for sure, I hope that each one of you understands this perspective from the Ayurvedic, most of all the Ayurvedic perspective point of view, and also understand a little bit the relationship we have in the homeopathic system, which is much more extreme in the approach, but also we deal with the toxic system that we find in the body, and we use that same element to treat that person. So there's many things we can use to help a person during a depression mode. But again, we are just talking about diagnostic skills. I'm not going further into that for now, but I hope you like it, and I hope I can see you soon next time. Okay, so see you soon then in the next topic.